On this Monday night, new graphic testimony at the Hockey Canada sex assault trial. What the complainant says she endured in that hotel room, what she says happened when she tried to leave, and the message she says one player sent her the next day. Plot twist. The American president threatens to tariff movies made outside the U.S.
It would be devastating.
What it could mean for Canada's film industry. Parts of Manitoba under a state of emergency. The raging wildfires that ripped through several communities.
Global National with Donna Friesen. Reporting tonight, Nitu Garcha.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with emotional new testimony from the woman accusing 5 former World Junior hockey players of sexual assault. The woman, whose identity is protected, took the stand again today, testifying to graphic details of the alleged assault in 2018. She also faced cross-examination. Seán O'Shea was in the London, Ontario courtroom, and a warning: some of the testimony is disturbing. Seán?
The 2 jurors in this sexual assault trial heard from a female complainant about what happened in a London hotel room in June of 2018 and how one defendant, Michael McLeod, wanted a police investigation to go away. McLeod and 4 other players have all pleaded not guilty. They include Alex Formanton, Dylan Dubé, Cal Foote, and Carter Hart. The complainant, known as EM, testified that she had consensual sex with McLeod in his second-floor hotel room at the Delta Hotel, room 209, that after a night of drinking at a local bar. Afterwards, she said McLeod invited other men into the room. At one point of the room, there were 7 or 8. EM testified they had wanted me to lie down and touch myself, and they also had golf clubs in the room. I remember them making comments about putting golf balls in me, adding it sounded extreme and painful. She says that didn't happen, adding they wanted me to perform oral sex on them. And she complied with 3 of the men at once, saying it was gross, it was degrading. They were spitting on me and slapping. It was multiple people taking turns hitting as hard as they could. I said to stop it. EM said over the course of several hours she was crying at points and wanted to leave the room, testifying, they kept bringing me back. She testified she had oral sex with 3 of the accused on the floor of the room and vaginal sex with another in the bathroom, all of which she says was non-consensual. EM was asked about a video made in McLeod's room in which she said it was consensual. I had fun. EM said she didn't remember that video, but that it didn't reflect how she really felt at the time. The next day, McLeod reached EM on Instagram and sent a series of messages that were presented in court, asking if she'd gone to the police. What can you do to make this go away? McLeod asked, after the woman's mother had contacted police, texting EM, you need to talk to your mother right now and straighten things out with police before this goes too far. This is a serious matter that she is misrepresenting and could have significant implications for a lot of people, including you. The prosecutor asked EM how she felt getting McLeod's messages. It sounded very threatening. It made me question what I should do about this. It scared me. EM spent the equivalent of a day giving her evidence. Now defense lawyers representing the 5 former junior hockey players get their turn to ask questions. That process could take several days. Nitu.
Seán O'Shea in London, Ontario. Thanks, Seán. Prime Minister Mark Carney is in Washington tonight ahead of a highly anticipated meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump. Carney has said he expects tomorrow's talks to be difficult but constructive. Today, Trump had this to say about the visit.
I don't know, he's coming to see me. I'm not sure what he wants to see me about, but I guess he wants to make a deal. Everybody does. They all want to make a deal because we have something that they all want.
The meeting is expected to focus on trade and tariffs. Our chief political correspondent, David Aiken, is traveling with the Prime Minister.
Well, Nitu, Mark Carney has arrived here in the American capital with a team of ministers. They are all business, focused on the serious threat to Canadian sovereignty for a meeting that they've been preparing for days.
That's quite a contrast to Trump's last face-to-face meeting with a Canadian PM, Justin Trudeau, at Mar-a-Lago in Florida in November. That was more of a social event than a serious negotiation. Briefing notes prepared for Trudeau, obtained by Global News through an access to information request, show Trudeau's advisors scrambling just hours before Trudeau took off for Mar-a-Lago to pull together trade data and talking points for Trudeau to use. Carney, by comparison, has several aides and ministers with him, including Public Safety Minister David McGuinty, Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc, and Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly.
You go to these meetings well prepared, understanding the objectives of
your counterpart, and always acting in the best interest of Canada, and we'll go from there.
Trudeau's briefing notes show he was focused heavily on the economy, with only passing mentions of fentanyl, migration, and border security. Trudeau had no briefing notes about protecting Canadian culture or changing the Canada-U.S. defense relationship. Trump can expect Carney to put all of those items on the table, along with a focus on the auto industry, lumber, steel and aluminum, and even the film industry. Carney is setting low expectations for the few hours he'll spend with Trump Tuesday.
We'll see how that progress goes. It's important to get engaged immediately, which has always been my intention, has always been his intention, and I'm pleased to have the opportunity for quite a comprehensive set of meetings.
Those meetings include a session in the Oval Office with the Prime Minister and the President in front of the TV cameras. Then they'll wrap up about mid-afternoon, and Carney will be back in Ottawa Tuesday night. Neetu.
All right, David Aiken in Washington. Thanks, David. The U.S. president has opened another front in his global trade war, this time taking aim at cinema. Last night, Trump threatened to slap 100% tariffs on any movies produced outside of the U.S. It's an apparent bid to keep more productions in America. But as Eric Sorensen explains, if implemented, it will rock the Canadian film industry, which Hollywood also relies on.
Blessed be the fruit.
From the blockbuster The Handmaid's Tale to the latest season of Reacher to another Hallmark romance, Canadian backdrops abound, with film crews in Toronto, Vancouver, and communities across the country shooting scenes for upcoming productions.
We have competitive and stable tax credits.
Canadian political leaders have touted the incentives that turn Canada into so-called Hollywood North. But to President Trump, it amounts to stealing the movie industry from America. His message?
If they're not willing to make a movie inside the United States, then we should have a tariff on movies that come in.
The potential impact here?
It would be devastating, not only for the tens of thousands of people who work in our industry, but also for the thousands of businesses that are supported.
Hundreds of film and TV projects are produced in Canada every year for the U.S. and other markets. They create some 240,000 full and part-time jobs and add an estimated $14 billion annually to Canada's GDP. It's not clear how the tariffs would work. Would American consumers have to pay more to watch foreign films? Would Mission Impossible not shoot around the world? And what would it mean for animation and special effects production that are specialties in this country?
There are so many questions surrounding this at the moment that we don't see what the pathway is here, other than I'm going to lob a grenade and see what happens.
The Prime Minister is now being urged to put one more big item on his agenda when he meets with President Trump Tuesday.
There's no question that the President is threatening people who work in industries across British Columbia and across Canada.
Tariffs may not be implemented, but the mere threat could achieve what President Trump wants, to put a chill on more U.S. companies to stop spending money in this country. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
Alberta Premier Danielle Smith made a rare afternoon address outlining what she says will be her province's path forward with Ottawa under the new Liberal minority government. Heather Yurex-West joins us now from Calgary. And Heather, the Premier blasted the last decade under a Liberal government, but says Prime Minister Mark Carney had some promising things to say about the government's resource policies.
Yeah, she did say that, Neetu, but the Premier made it clear that Alberta wants a new deal with Ottawa, a binding document that would be negotiated with the help of a special team from the province that she calls the Alberta Accord. She says it's needed to quell the frustration within this province and the separatist sentiment that, while vocal, is worth noting is only a small percentage of the Alberta population. So what does Smith want in this Alberta Accord? She outlined 4 points: guaranteed access to tidewater and ports in the Pacific, Atlantic, and Arctic Ocean for the export of oil, gas, and other critical minerals, the end to a number of federal energy policies, including Bill C-69, the oil tanker ban, the emissions cap, and the net zero vehicle mandate, a promise to refrain from imposing export tax on energy exports, and revamping equalization, so Alberta receives the same per capita transfers as BC, Ontario, and Quebec.
I will, in good faith, work with Prime Minister Mark Carney on unwinding the mountain of destructive legislation and policies that have ravaged our provincial and national economies this past decade. Until I see tangible proof of real change, Alberta will be taking steps to better protect ourselves from Ottawa.
Now, Smith has spoken directly to Albertans before, but in the past, these addresses have been broadcast over the supper hour. Choosing to speak via an online live stream at 3 p.m. Mountain Time suggests Smith was hoping to reach a wider audience across the country. She did not take any questions from reporters about this plan today, but she does have a news conference scheduled for Tuesday morning. Neetu?
Interesting. All right, Heather Yurex West in Calgary. Thanks, Heather. A state of emergency has been declared in northern Manitoba's Interlake region due to wildfires. Further north, people living in Peguis had to flee as flames tore through that area. The main wildfire there has been extinguished, but several smaller fires are still burning, and there is a risk of flare-ups. Melissa Ridgen is in Peguis tonight. Melissa?
What we see here is the smoldering remains of a 10-kilometer wall of flame that ripped through Peguis on Sunday afternoon, fueled by winds like we have here right now, caused panic, terror, as 4,000 residents were put on an emergency evacuation notice. Those fleeing had to navigate through fast-moving flames and thick smoke on their way out.
The flames were right on top of those trees, and it burned all the way around. So all of these home lines right here, as we were watching the flames come this way, it was rolling through the bush, and it was so high. I thought these homes were burning. I thought from my vantage point here, I could have swore they were all gone.
Unbelievably, the homes were spared, smoke damaged, but still standing.
And all of a sudden, a big water bomber came in, and it just came in just like the Jets and swept everything out and cleaned helped save these homes.
Other properties weren't as fortunate. This farmstead leveled.
It was quite the harrowing experience, as you see, for a lot of our members. A lot of panic was in the air, just a lot of destruction.
Devastation is all too familiar to this community. This time of year, evacuations and loss are usually due to flooding.
It seems every year we're affected by something, and it takes its toll on our people.
Residents like Doug Thomas are just thankful the fire wasn't worse.
I'm just grateful for all of those that jumped into action and came in to help.
A fire ban is in effect here, as well as a ban on all off-road vehicles, including ATVs. The cause of the fire is under investigation, but certainly it's been a horrible and very early start to fire season here. Neetu?
Indeed. Melissa Ridgen in Peguis First Nation in Manitoba. Thanks, Melissa. Today, fire officials in Alberta confirmed an all-terrain vehicle that caught fire Saturday is to blame for a growing wildfire near the Redwater Recreation Area about an hour northeast of Edmonton. The fire is now more than 400 hectares and 70% contained. One home has been destroyed and an evacuation order remains in effect. Gaza's humanitarian crisis is already incredibly dire. Tonight, new warnings it could get even worse. We'll tell you why coming up. Today is the 15th National Day of Remembrance and Awareness for missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people, also known as Red Dress Day. Events were held in communities across the country, including in Winnipeg, where the remains of 4 murdered Indigenous women were recently identified in 2 landfills. Their families and loved ones fought for months to have the landfills searched in an effort to get answers and some form of closure. Global National will be back in a moment. Israel has approved plans to capture the entire Gaza Strip and expand its military offensive inside the Palestinian territory. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says it will help destroy Hamas and rescue all remaining hostages. But as Jackson Prosco reports, hostage families say it's a death sentence.
The humanitarian crisis in Gaza may soon intensify as Israel prepares to seize the Palestinian territory for an unspecified amount of time. The situation is indescribable, less than zero, says this 71-year-old woman. Foreign journalists are still banned from entering Gaza. A local crew working with Global News spoke with residents who say no place is safe.
The war is difficult since the beginning, but last 2 months is the most worst and catastrophic period.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced what he called an intensified operation to defeat Hamas, saying Gaza's population would be moved once again. Israel called up thousands of reservists, as families of the 59 remaining hostages warned of dire consequences for those held since the October 7th attack.
Hearing that we're going back to war is not what we wanted to hear. We have seen that hostages die during warfare.
A long-term occupation would all but dash hopes for Palestinian statehood. It aligns with U.S. President Donald Trump's vision for taking over Gaza.
We're going to help the people of Gaza because they're being treated very badly by Hamas.
It's expected the Israeli plan would not begin until after Trump's visit to the Middle East later this month, allowing time to negotiate a new ceasefire agreement, even as Israel says it wants more control over aid distribution inside the besieged territory. Jackson Prosco, Global News, Washington.
Ahead, the unique pilgrimage to honor extraordinary Canadian sacrifice in the Netherlands.
Slightly exhausted.
King Charles and other members of the royal family, including Queen Camilla, Prince William, and Princess Kate, hosting a tea party today for surviving veterans of the Second World War. It's all part of commemorations for the 80th anniversary of VE Day, when German forces surrendered across Europe. This country played a key role in helping to liberate the Dutch from Nazi occupation. More than 7,600 Canadians were killed in the mission. Honoring their sacrifice over the last several days, descendants have been retracing their steps in the Netherlands. Mike Armstrong is there.
They are Canadians an ocean from home who've come to a field at dusk in the Dutch countryside. It was Canadian soldiers who cleared this region in 1945, taking heavy losses. 40 young men from Canada were buried just outside the village of Almen. They were eventually moved to a Commonwealth cemetery, but this was their first resting place, and the village has not forgotten.
Nous sommes très honorés.
Kim Taylor Galway's grandfather made it home, but he fought very close to this spot.
Clearly, the 40 men who died here, who we've just honored with the torches, lived their last night on earth in absolute terror.
Taylor Galway made the trip over with a group called In Our Father's Footsteps. It's been a week of, at times, overwhelming emotions, whether it was walking in the Apeldoorn Liberation Parade or quiet reflection at a cemetery with more than 2,600 fallen Canadians.
That street still exists, Gallagher Street.
Kim Kubek, a veteran herself, found the grave of her grandfather's best friend growing up.
They joined together on the same day in 1939. So when I heard about In Our Father's Footsteps, I definitely wanted to come here, take a picture of that grave, and get it back to the family.
We consider this to be our barracks.
Now, the group is spending a few nights in what was, during the war, a Canadian field hospital. The itinerary and the idea for the trip came from Karen Hunter. Her father served in the Netherlands, and when she decided to retrace his footsteps, she opened it up to others.
They would email me and say, "Oh my God, I can't believe this. I wanted to do this. Sign me up."
To join the group, participants had to show a familial tie to someone who served in the Netherlands. Hunter ended up finding 130 new friends.
We're here to represent our father, Lance Corporal Lawrence W. Knowlton.
Lance Sergeant Reginald Wellwood, the Royal Canadian Engineers.
Tank Commander Tom Finan with Three Rivers Regiment. 12th Manitoba Dragoons, Trooper Lumi Stephenson.
Major Harry Kilgore, 48th Highlanders of Canada.
With each person carrying pictures and pride everywhere they go, they are emotional days. Hunter says most end with someone saying they've run out of tears. Mike Armstrong, Global News, Almen, the Netherlands.
What a win. Next, the euphoria in Winnipeg after the Jets' heart-stopping Game 7 comeback. It was an unforgettable moment last night in Winnipeg. The Jets pulled off one of the most dramatic comebacks in NHL history to win Game 7 of their first-round playoff series against the St. Louis Blues. The Jets are one of 3 Canadian teams to make the second round, the first time that's happened in more than 20 years. Marney Blunt on what's now being dubbed the Manitoba Miracle.
Tension filling the arena and the streets of Winnipeg Sunday night. And then an outburst of electric energy and white noise, following a heart-stopping, game-winning goal in double overtime.
Go Jets!
The ultimate comeback for the team in a game filled with extreme highs and lows. Winnipeggers still feeling those emotions Monday of a playoff series they won't soon forget.
What a redemption for Connor Hellebuck. I was like, bless his soul.
I was going to turn it off for a while there, and then I stayed on, and it was a good game.
Fantastic game. Probably one to go down in history, I would say.
The team down 3-1 in the dying moments of the third period before making a miracle become reality, scoring twice in the final 2 minutes, with Cole Perfetti tying up the game with just seconds on the clock.
That last night was the most dramatic ending to a game I have covered in some 48, 49 years.
Captain Adam Lowry then scoring that game winner before getting mobbed by his teammates.
The amount of pressure that those players were facing and that they were somehow able to find a way with a disallowed goal thrown in for good measure. It is the stuff that fairy tales and legends are made of.
The mayor and premier all but declaring Monday a holiday for hockey lovers, something many Winnipeggers were in need of.
I love how everyone's so happy about what's going on in Winnipeg. So that's the best part of it.
The Winnipeg Jets now hoping to keep Sunday night's momentum going here in Winnipeg on Wednesday as they start round 2 of the playoff series against the Dallas Stars. Neethu?
Marney Blunt, thanks. That is Global National for this Monday. I'm Neethu Garcha. Tonight's Your Canada showcases Rose Blanche Harbour Laku, Newfoundland and Labrador, Kelowna, BC, and Dead Man's Flats, Alberta. Thanks for watching.